Casey Show on AM 830, and I'm your host, sports psychologist Dr. Casey Cooper. Now, Psychology 101 today was inspired by my guest, Jimmy Albright. Now, his eyes develop differently than most of us. A condition called aniridia, a congenital anomaly, means that Jimmy's eyes developed with a limited iris and there's some other things that happen to the structure of the eye. But surprising and inspiring people around him at every turn, Jimmy is the starting center for his coach, Todd Dixon. They're both in studio today. They are part of the El Toro varsity boys basketball program that won their league championship is it the 7th year in a row now?
7th time in a row, yes.
Wow, awesome. Well, thank you for making the time to visit me in studio today. Now, I know you may be licking wounds a little bit after last night's loss to Chino Hills in the second game of your CIF bracket, correct?
Yes, unfortunately we did lose last night, but we've had a great season, ended up 21-7, and we're happy to be here, and thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Well, and I agree with you completely on that. Congrats on your season. You know, sometimes when people get focused on game-to-game performance, they miss out on the overall review of an incredible season.
Right. We always talk about it's the journey, because only one team is going to end up winning their last game, and it's the journey and the process and the friendships you make and the experiences you have throughout the whole season. That's a lot of fun.
Oh my goodness, can we clone you and just and so many youth athletes need to hear that and parents need to hear that. So I hope you're all listening. Now Jimmy, I'd like to get to know you a little bit better as a person. We've read so much about you and your performances lately. What year are you at El Toro now?
I'm a senior.
A senior, all right. And what's coming up for you next in your world? Because wow, you just concluded your last year of basketball with your school.
I have one more season of volleyball at El Toro High School, and then I'm going to attend the University of Oregon next year.
Oh, congratulations. Well, I'm glad that the Pac-10 is keeping you, even if California is losing you.
Thank you.
All right. Now, how long have you been playing basketball?
I've been playing since I was about 4 years old.
4 years old? Wow. What got you, what attracted you to the sport? At 4 years old, I'm sure your parents said, let's give this a shot. Let's see if you like it. But what kept you attracted to basketball?
Well, I just kept watching it on TV, and my favorite player is Michael Jordan, and he just kept impressing me. And like every other kid, I just went out and wanted to be like him and just kept working out the game and eventually came to me.
Wow. Now how did you – I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. I know my husband can actually, but he doesn't have your height. So you watched the game on TV, were inspired by that. But what was it like for you learning the mechanics of the game? Who taught you?
My dad taught me, and it was a mix between my dad teaching me and picking things up, watching it on the television. And pretty much everything I learned was from all my coaches and then from personal experience.
Okay, now do you have a sense of if you had to learn the drills differently than other people? Because I know that your experience is all that you can compare it to anything to. But do you know, were adjustments made to help you learn that type of physical control?
Maybe a little adjustments were made by my coaches perhaps, but for me, I just tried to follow directions and listen to my coaches as well as I could, and it pretty much went from there.
Wow. I bet you're a pretty spatial person. That meaning that you can imagine something in space, rotate it, manipulate the image in your mind's eye.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
Awesome. Now, did I describe aniridia correctly?
Yes, you did.
Okay. So I think it's really difficult for people who read the story like I did and are listening right now to imagine and relate to your perception of the world around you, your vision, what you take in. So I was wondering if we could compare your vision to, say, coaches or mine, so that we could have, a real life example of how things are different. So let's take an example of, say, the logos on the backdrop here. Yeah. What are you able to detect there?
I can read all of those because they're large enough. But
okay.
If we're from a further distance or they're smaller, it might be more difficult to read.
Okay. So, for example, when you look at the logo up there on the left glass up there, I'm not trying to test you or quiz you. I'm just trying to appreciate how it's different for you. What are you able to see up there?
I can make out most of it. It's just a little blurry.
Do you know what it says?
Yeah. Well, no.
Okay. All right. So Coach, and if you're typing something on the computer, what font size does it need to be for it to be clear for you? That would probably help everyone relate a little bit.
It doesn't need to be that large, but I just sit a little closer to the computer than normal people do.
Okay. So do you adjust it at all, like to size 18 or is size 12 work for you? You just sit closer.
Size 12 is fine. Sometimes I make it a little larger depending on it has more of an effect like when you're searching on the web, depending on what font the page uses, and then if I need to, I enlarge it.
Wow. Yeah, see, like that's something that everyone would just sort of take for granted. And thank you for indulging the questions. I didn't want to, again, seem like we were quizzing you or anything, but I wanted for the listeners to appreciate how talented you are, because we take it for granted how easy it is for us to adjust to our surroundings because of how easy it is for Coach and I to see the logos and the things that are around us here in the room. So, I appreciate you indulging us with that.
Right. And I actually notice, like, if he's holding his cell phone, whenever he has to read a text message or look at his cell phone, it's right next to his eye. So that's how close, we always have it an arm's length away, but for Jimmy, it's really close to his face.
Okay. All right. So actually for people who are probably around you more, they appreciate the discrepancy more than Jimmy does because it's normal to him.
Right.
Okay. All right. Now, I'm Dr. Casey. If you're just tuning in, we're having a conversation with Jimmy and his coach. The local story is truly inspirational. So your world does interact with you a little bit differently, and I'm assuming that you learned to play basketball a little differently as well. Coach, when Jimmy came to you, what was his knowledge of the center position and what was missing from his game?
He came with a lot of knowledge, actually. You could tell he had been playing from a young age and had a lot of experience. And I never made a notice about his condition. I mean, I noticed there was something, but I never made any real adjustments at the beginning. He's always just been a hardworking kid, and he's always dealt with it. And it wasn't a situation where the parents said, oh, we need some special favors, or Jimmy said, hey, here's, my out or my excuse. He was never like that.
Right.
So it was always, he's just one of the boys. And that's what's been great from day one. He's just one of the guys out there, and there's not a lot of adjustments that I had to make early on.
Okay, so no adjustments to, I read in the article, lighting in different gymnasiums affects you. Is it better to have lower lighting or a lot of overhead lighting?
Lower lighting is usually more difficult, but other than that, it's not that big of an effect on basketball. It's more of an effect on volleyball.
Oh, okay. And in what way? Because the ball's a smaller size, harder to detect? Or?
Yeah, the ball's a smaller size, and it blends in better with the lights.
Right, the white volleyball is board as opposed to the brown basketball.
Okay, so that contrast provides.
Right. And in the sport of basketball, the ball's up in the air a lot higher, so when you're going up to spike or to block, you're looking up into maybe
into
lights. Right, that.
Right, gotcha. Okay. And not every I'm thinking also within basketball, some of the movements are going to be a little more under your control and routine because you can choose where you're going to take your shot from as opposed to volleyball.
And some of the adjustments on the court we made as far as we like to have Jimmy, our 5-man, use a lot of pick and rolls and screens. So when you screen someone up top and we come off of that screen and he rolls to the basket, it's a tough angle for him to see the ball.
Sure.
So we try to make the extra pass to the corner and then enter the ball where it's a more straight line pass where it's right in his side of vision. So that helps.
Awesome. Now, Jimmy, how long have you known your teammates? Have you gone through school with them before high school?
Yeah. A couple of my teammates I've known since like early NJB years. Like Andy Nikasi, I played with him in like 4th grade, and then other people I played against, I don't remember actually being on their team. But then in like 7th and 8th grade, I was on our whole team was on one team.
Okay, so I don't want to assume anything, but Coach, did you have to work through any relational challenges where some of the teammates who didn't appreciate necessarily how hardworking Jimmy is or how far he's willing to go to be there for them when they need him, and maybe made some snap judgments based on the limitations with his sight?
Right. We didn't have any issues at all. I mean, the boys have been really accepting, obviously, the condition, and it's never really been an attention getter until recently. So it's something where now I think some of the kids are going, wow, that really is impressive what Jimmy has to do. And that's why it's such an inspiration to us, because we could see how hard he's worked to become such a good, not only basketball player, but he's good at almost everything he does. And that's, I think, because of his work ethic.
Right. You take the qualities that you see in the way he approaches a task and how he attacks all of that. So you didn't actually ask the team to try to relate to his world by maybe I don't know, altering the way that they were able to see things at a practice? And because, you know, sometimes people do those types of
Right.
relational exercises.
Right. We didn't do any of that. We just kind of played the game of basketball and treated